것은 두 가지 면이 있습니다. 첫 번째는 중생들에게 보여주려고 하는 이유가
So there are two sides that we need to know here. The first one is there should be nothing hidden in the teaching and also the path that you are trying to show to the all sentient beings. So
용어 뜻이 방법이라는 뜻이죠, 그죠? 그러니까 방법이라는 것은 우리가 그 반야신경 얘기처럼
I said the law or dharma is actually in Sanskrit, which it actually means the path.
가세 그 말이 근데 구호적인 말이
And
뭐야?
just like in
새벽종이 울렸네 새아침이 밝았네 너도 나도 일어나 그뭔 노래지 새말 노래
And just like in Paramita Sutra is written, let's go, let's go, let's go to the park. It's like a slogan in the song that we used to recite when we were a child. So there's a party which tries to promote, and the saying "아제 아제 바라제 바르승아제 모지사바" means let's go, let's go, let's go soon to the path where it leads to enlightenment. So, in order to do that, there should be a method shown to arrive to the path.
엄마보다 커가지고 그래서 그 방법으로서 그가 없으면 가자라는 맹목적인 것을 가지고는 안 되잖아요, 그렇죠? 우리가
So, as a method,
산티자바 얘기처럼
if there is no method given,
말하는 것은 다 똑같고
or if it's just stressful, if the stress is only at arriving, then it is difficult. It's same for everyone to wish for happiness, and
그러더라도 그 방법 자체
everyone wants to be happy, but the reason why everyone is not happy is because they don't know what are the methods to be happy. But then even if you say that you know the method to become happy, maybe the method that we have chosen is wrong, but we are not maybe we are not aware that it is wrong. And if we ever to take the wrong method, then maybe we will not face the good or proper result. On the other hand, if we take the proper method, then maybe we will have our desired accurate result. And that's written in the very simple way of this slogan.
우리가 목탁을 쳐서 그 사람 복을 빌어
So if the teaching is about dharma, about giving the benefits to other sentient beings, ultimately it's not even ultimate, but even at the basic level, you cannot give them the desired happiness because you only wish that for, but it is not possible in reality. Since it is not possible in reality, it is something that you only expect. And in that way, you cannot give happiness. And so you teach them the method, and even if you teach them the method, if you do not practice on your own, and if you do not practice on your own, I cannot practice the method and give you the desired happiness.
부처님이 깨달은 거 부처님 먹으면 못 깨닫는다고 다르다고 개체가 달라
It is my personal achievement and also my happiness to show the path to happiness for others, but it is not possible for me to do it for you. Even Buddha cannot do that. It's a different mechanism. It is something that you have to do. We will tell you the ways, and as the method that has been taught, you will have to practice it on your own.
원선이라고 선을 착함을 권하는 것이라고 그걸
We should be those which lead other people step by step. That we call conveying our message and also teaching them how to be happy. And also we are spreading a religion in this way. We do not say gathering people as the propagation of a religion or missionary work. Even in Christian, they have the wrong idea about missionary. And if there is a missionary of only group gathering, then and if the motive or if the gathering of the group does not convey or does not promote happiness to others or do beneficial things to others, then there is no essence to the meeting being held. We also say these things to Tibetan monks. Our monks, we emphasize or we try to pursue the situations or conditions that is not really beneficial to other people. Even to those who has not yet entered the beginning stage, it's almost like you're asking them to give the thesis for the PhD degree. What is the difference? That is the present condition of Korean Buddhism. So if you say, oh, there's no need to this or that, and if you just have the enlightenment, then it's the end. But where is the I that's being found in this area? So that comes from your lack of knowledge. But to the monks who are in Tibetan Buddhism, a lot of Westerners or Koreans, they criticize, saying that they do not teach. But you have to take into the consideration that you have the misunderstanding that you are someone who can take control of everything that's being told to the optimal level, and then you assume that you are in the situation that you can intake the final stage of the Diamond Sutra, and you are not in the condition that you can tolerate this. But then instead you say you can drink the steel being melted just like as hot as lava. That's why it is not acceptable. But on the other hand, Tibetan monks, they are able to tolerate so much that even if they are being criticized, they are able to just listen to it and not take into consideration of what is being criticized to them. But on the other hand, we make a lot of mistakes. So and also the believers of Korea, we tend to come and say, oh, you say you pray for us, you pray the virtues for us, but you're not doing it. So but we have to make them understand that is something that we know and also something that is proper. You criticize that they do not teach you, but it's actually the fact that you are not in the situation to intake the basic ones, but you expect to be taught the final level. If that is so, then you should know that there will be a very serious problem. So it is not something that they're not teaching you, but they are not able to teach you. They can't teach that to you. So it's something like you want to do surgery and you have to do the surgery. But before the surgery, because he went through fasting, his body is in a very bad condition. And so while the surgery, the doctor says his blood sugar level is low and his blood pressure is not fine. And if he says that this kind of thing, his body condition is not fit for surgery, then doctor will try to bring up his condition first before performing the surgery. And so as before the marathon, before running, you practice not only running but also try to learn how to control your body conditions. I went to Sorim Temple for twice in China, and of course there is also a variation of study. They do a lot of practice for the martial arts. And below Sorim Monastery, you can only hear people practicing their practicing their methods to
손가락 하나 쓰는데 손가락을 보니까 손가락이 얼마나 이걸 단련시키더니 손가락이 요만큼 한 마디 정도.
below Sori Monastery. There are so many different schools for martial arts, and you can only hear their shouts for the concentration. And about 30 monks are there, and who are well versed in martial arts, and they can actually stand upside down with one finger. And I thought they were tied to the rope from something, but they weren't. I checked it, and because they only stand with one finger, that particular finger became a little short. That means it's very tough, that finger is. So if you poke someone with the finger, then a person might also die. Imagine how difficult it is to stand upside down with one finger. I cannot do it with two hands. I think they hit the hard bricks with your head, and the bricks break. But instead of I was afraid that the head might break, but instead of the head, the bricks started breaking off. But those people, in order to practice that, they try to practice the lower parts of body, and for the practice or for the strengthening of lower part of body, they do not learn martial arts for about 3 years. They only practice on the concentration of the lower parts of the body. And you see even in the movies, right? Getting water, or maybe making you sit in the posture of a horse for the whole day. They make you practice those kind of basic practices. Without the basic practice, if you do not have a strong posture for the lower part of your body, then you cannot practice it, because you do not have the strength to withstand. So for about 3 years, they only make you practice that posture. And for us, we might also say, how are we going to wait for 3 years? And there are also people who say that, and so say in Sakcha Monastery they only teach you what is literal, but they don't teach you how to practice. You have to go and sit there with open heart. So before that happens, if I teach you, it's same as you perform surgery on someone whose body condition is not ready. So that person might not recover, or that person might not even withstand the surgery being held or performed. So in Tibet, those people, they study every day for 16 years, and after they have a proper understanding, they make you practice. For you do it about like 4 times a month, and you forget on the way here, and you forget on the way home, and even when you arrive home you forget. And also when you listen to the internet, you also say, oh, when did Venerable Jinok say that? And when you start thinking about it, then there are also new things. When did he say? And then there are also days that you do not come to the teaching. You miss out classes often, and your practice is not being processed well. And despite all of that, you say, despite all the things, you know that this is not why it happened, or why that happened. You prostrate 108 with all your might, but then when you see them doing it, then you know that that is not the way to get good grades for your test. So you start knowing which is right and which is wrong. So even children, when they were little, the story is quite interesting. The thing about the frog, when we ask you to go to east, you go to the west, and if we ask you to go to the mountain, you go to the river, because he kept doing the opposite. So when I die, because the mother thought he would bury the corpse. If she asked him to bury in the river, she would do it to the mountain. So she said, "Bury me in the river." But actually, he did it. He listened to mother, and so when it says rain, the frog they cry in fear that his mother would be washed away. So what we learn what is not, but we learn what is not right. So when mother asks for water, we say no first. So we start off with saying no. Until the time that their front teeth fell off, they only continue doing no, and through the sense of no, they start finding the sense of I. And it's the same with you. Even now, when you start learning, you have to find out what is not right or what is no. Right now, nowadays, we do not have so much skins for the rice. So in olden times, you used to take out all of them, or the skins for the rice. If the amount of the rice is lesser than the skin, then what do we have to do? We have to do it again. So when we find out what is not right, when we figure out what is not right, even in the law, even in the practice of Buddhism, that is the path to the proper way. So if those who drink, if they come and ask me, what are the ways that I cannot drink, then it's a practice for you not to stop drinking it. So when you come here wearing certain carats of diamond, and if you come here and say, how do I have to practice? Then if I ask you, remove all of them first, then you say, no, I'm not talking about this. The moment I start saying remove those for that person, there's nothing more than that. For lazy people who is only just staying at home and being lazy, and if they ask what are the methods I can study, it's very simple. I can just tell you to study. Come to the teaching. There can be no benefits for that person other than that. When he comes to the teaching, he already feels sleepy, and he says, how can I study? Then I tell you, baby, before coming here, you should drink a cup of coffee or try not to sleep. You should put more efforts to it. That is practice. It starts off from there. But if you just ignore all of them, and if you just say, oh, there's something on the top, and so even teaching kids, you teach them how to do their laundry, how to comb their hair, and how to sweep the floor. If you don't teach them how to do that, then even if they have the PhD degree, from what I listened, there is no one who can be the who has the quality of the minister. And then they complain there's no one suited for the material, and so you say, do you want to be the minister? No, because they know that there's no one who has not done the wrong things, because every secret of them will be rebels, so they don't want to take the important parts. there is no one there is no children of those who belong to the higher status in our country who doesn't have problem with their children. How can there be more patience for those people who belong to the good parents than those belonging to the lower to our commons? So I thought maybe like olden times, maybe in Shilla area they breed amongst themselves. So during Shilla dynasty, because they married amongst their cousins and their relatives, there were so many people who were disabled, and so that's why in the end of Shilla dynasty, a lot of people, the royals especially, there were not so many of them left because they didn't have the proper understanding of the genetic study. That's why when we teach them the proper teaching, that's the most important thing. And that is like the ABC of the missionary work. It's not a matter of collecting more people to do it, but we teach them this way to others, and by teaching them this, we try to remove them from suffering. You should have this kind of idea. It shouldn't be done so. So in olden times, a lot of monks, in Pakistan and Afghanistan and also India and also during those snow-capped mountains, they had a little dark skin, and their nicknames are Ado and Mukhoja, because in Mukhoja and Ado is something like they had their hair like children and also dark skin. Why did they come here all the way to here? They didn't come here for the power play, but they didn't come here for other reason, but they wanted to convey the words and try to save people from their suffering. Other than that, there was nothing. They didn't try to collect more people and try to take control of this country. And in Buddhism, there's nothing like that. There should be no hidings, no hidden things in teaching. In other words, it means because I'm doing many things, I am at the higher status and you guys are at the lower status. That is also wrong. When that person is in need, and if I have the medicine, then I should be able to give the medicine to him whenever it is needed. Buddhism will only come back to its life when it is done so. When I say come back to life, I'm not referring to the power or authority being developed, but I mean to say when people get free from their agony and also their sufferings. That is the main motivation of Buddhism, or else there is no reason for Buddhism to exist. It can only harm others. That's why so if I look at it from one point of time, although we need the nationalism and also citizens, but maybe on one hand, I believe that we need to be removed, or we need to move away from nationalism or country. I've only done 2 lines, but I'm already out of my power. The second one is the teaching that you're going to describe to other beings. You need to have the sense of wrong and right, whether it is proper. The teaching that you are going to teach others, it needs to be tested whether it is right or wrong. this person, you're going to feed him the medicine for tuberculosis. But the first one, when you try to feed him, what do you have to check first?
의사는 아주 명의들은 근데 이 사람이 이걸 먹다가 중간에 또 그냥 안 먹고 그냥 땡겨
Please do not murmur.
그러고 이제 내성이 생겨서 안 되니까
You have to check whether the person has the tuberculosis or not.
보완해줘서 먹게
And
요까지 다 점검을 해야 되잖아요. 그럼 이 사람이
And since the tuberculosis medicine, the more you delay it, it harms you more. So, but when you try to make the person eat that fast, you need to check if the person's health can withstand it, and also you need to make sure that the person eats the medicine for 6 months. The doctor also has to check if the person's health condition will be good enough to take the medicines. So the doctor has to check whether he needs to eat antibiotics or the medicine for the tuberculosis. It is the duty of the doctor to do that. And so it is also the duty for the teachers. So there are two things. One is the story is fine to be heard, whether it is on an official area, and also the second, if it is not necessary, then you do not talk about it. Buddha has done it so. Since Buddha thought people would be confused if he talks about the sense of Mayana, even in the meeting, so Buddha asked 5,000 people to move away, and then he started describing about the Lotus Sutra. So you need to find out, you need to check whether the story is appropriate to the person or not. If the person has a very small heart, he will not be able to take it. And so you need to have the sense of discrimination, whether the story that you're going to teach to others is proper. You need to know that it began from their past. So if you do not have the sense of omniscience that Buddha has, then you can only lead your way only for the instant benefit. So most of the things that Buddha describes or explains, I compare it often to doctors. When a doctor diagnoses, doctor asks, "What did you eat yesterday?" So when doctor asks, "What did you eat yesterday?" when you say you have the diarrhea and stomach ache, doctor will ask that. And that medicine, it begins from finding the past of what you have done, and also the karma. It is not karma that is for today, but it is from your past life and the life before that and before that. It is the medicine prescribed for those karmas. So what is it? It is a disease that has been passed down for so long, and it is a disease that is very difficult to cure. But you will start bearing the consequences now. How are you going to treat this kind of chronic disease? All these things, and even the teaching, it is not something that I say momentarily because I heard something like this, but for those people, it is more about those stories that people have been performing or doing so far, all these habitual actions. What are the ways to bear the consequences, and what are those consequences, and what are the ways that you need to do in order to make changes? The saying is about those. Did you hear well in Canada these teachings occasionally? Did you listen to it when you are bored? You heard when you were at home? You could listen well. I think from what I heard, you can hear well in Canada and in America, but in India it is so slow and it gets disconnected many times. Therefore, if you're not able to achieve the omniscience that Buddha has, then you can only lead them for the momentarily profit. Here, when we say lead, there is important thing here. I've never been to Jiri Mountain, for example, but if someone asks me, can you please talk about Jiri Mountain, then I will only talk to them from what I heard. In Jiri Mountain, there is this and that, and it's about this meters about sea level, and this is about like that kilometers, and it's from south, and everything is from what I heard. Here, it's all about like hearsay, and also things that I have looked from map. But those hearsays, many times they are wrong. But in reality, if you go there and if you know about it well, and if you know about the spring, summer, autumn, winter, where is the like the spring and all these things, those people, they can only talk about Jiri Mountain. Those people who has experience can talk about mountain, but those who has no experience about Jiri Mountain, they cannot talk about it. But you should not act as if you have been there and talk about it. And that's almost like doctor that doesn't have the proper license. Whatever it is, when we say those fake doctors, when a fake doctor does something, then why? Doctors, they believe in science, so for them it should be like 1 + 1 = 2. But those fake doctors were different. The fake doctors, they would think that 1 + 1 could also be 3. That's why they have a lot of problems with the medical prescription, because the real doctors, they only use those methods which has been experienced and which is already been proved. They don't really say, they don't really follow the path. They say, this could be possible in that way. Even the practice, if you do it on your own, then it's bound to fail. That's why someone like Buddha, because he achieved the omniscience, no matter who comes to him, if they come to Buddha, and if you look at the scriptures, everyone came and all their beliefs were upgraded. There are so many things that I can do. It's possible with some, but it is not possible with many. If you come and ask me, then there are also things that I don't know, then I would say I don't know. There are many things. So there's the greatest difference between me and Buddha. If you listen to Buddha, then most of people, they change your heart after they change your opinion after listening to Buddha. But when you listen to me, some of you change your mind and some of you still stay the same. So there's too much difference. I guess it's same with you. Isn't it so? Developing the heart to help others is same as making the prayer for everyone to become a Buddha. So here, if you are only trying to gain enlightenment for yourself, you cannot gain enlightenment. So if you make the prayer that you are going to help all other sentient beings to become happy or to remove them from suffering, if you are going to help that, this kind of hurt becomes the causes for you to become Buddha. This becomes the cause for you to become Buddha. Others, they do not act as seeds for it. So when you build a monastery, by building a big monastery, if I try to live a very a very rich life, then that will not happen. You will become very poor. And also the existence of the monastery, it, because it is happiness, there is no difference between happiness and removing you from suffering. But by providing the place for you to remove your sufferings, and also if you teach and if you practice further, if you go ahead, then that becomes a causes of enlightenment. But if you're only looking after for yourself, then that is not the road to enlightenment, but there is very selfish idea. Even all of you should have a big heart. Like even the half did not answer, have a big heart. I don't think there is so much difference between people, even in terms of genetics, and also you have 2 eyes and 1 nose and 1 mouth. It's not different from the hair color and also the teeth, but making the hurt there's no difference between your potential to make hurt. Let's go to America in your hurt. You can sit here and still go to America if you have the hurt. We go to San Francisco and we saw the Statue of Liberty. We are already here, right? Give me the flight fare. We went there without even paying for the flight. Heart is so free. So if you try to win a boxer with your body, then it's difficult. But it's your mind. In your mind, you can go to San Francisco, and you can also go to Africa where Ebola is spreaded, but you still will not suffer from it. So in your heart, you can also plant the seed to become Buddha, and because it is so flexible, if you have the heart, then the energy will start spreading in your heart. If you want to live a petty person, if you want to live as a petty person, you live a petty life. But if you try to have a virtuous heart, and if you try to live that way, then your heart will expand. You know, in a private matter, once a monk said, when it's official, there should be heart that's flexible, that there should be the heart should be very flexible. But in matters of private way, you should not even let neither pass by. But here for us, for private matters, we can even let the trucks pass by. But for official matters, we do not budge. But nowadays, I started having this new thoughts. When matters about Yu Byung-hun, all these like 250 members of parliament, they say nothing about this matter. That is amazing. I wonder why they are not saying anything about it. The world is now very messed up. I think they can also use that as the background music. The world is a mess place, and those people who are ugly, live ugly life. We call this her the sense of Bodhisattva. So if you have this heart in order to remove the suffering of others, and if you try to become Buddha, but even if you do not talk about it, but you want the happiness for others, and so you try to help others in order to have a better life, then it itself becomes a sense of bodhisattva.
승의 보리심이라고 해서 궁극적인 보리심 세속적인 보리심
Bodhisattva has two different kinds, the common and also the ultimate one. But I don't look at bodhisattva in this way. The way to bodhisattva, they talk about the common and also final bodhisattva.
처음에 발보리심 처음에 내가
And the common bodhisattva is something
내는 것을 근데 이제 사람들이
is something that benefits everyone in the sense of the common world, and also the final bodhisattva when you try to gain enlightenment, when you try the first heart when you try to study it,
모든 사람은 다 불성이 본래 있어서
and
내가 불성만 발견만 해버리면
in Korea the flow is because we had belief in Buddhism.
우리 자체가 얼마나 잘못 해석되냐 무엇과 교리와 똑같다 그것과도 그렇잖아 내가 믿기만 해도
Because we had the wrong understanding of the sense of Buddhism in Korea. In Korea, they tend to believe that if you just invent the sense of bodhisattva, then you can attain enlightenment. That is very wrong.
믿기만 해버리면 믿기만
It is something like what the sect of redemption tried to believe in. If you only believe it, you'll get enlightenment.
아무것도 필요 없다라고 불성은 본래부터 있는 것이니까 발견해버리면 다 필요
So,
없다라고 생각하고 바로
If you only believe in it,
무엇과 다르게 뭐가
they assume that you'll gain enlightenment, but
우리가
the thought that because Buddhism had already existed, and so if you believe in it, you'll get enlightenment, then what is the difference between you and the sect that believed in the redemption? But
이 사람은 탁하고 대장이 떴다 막 불고 이게 이제 여기에 불이 있어요 없어요 또 이제 당경을 내기 시작하요 있어요 없어요 또 있을 수도 없고 없을 수도 없고 그것도 안 맞아 네?
in here, is there a light in here or not?
지금은 없는 게 어떻게 뒤에 나오지?
Is there a light? Again, it's back. It may be there, it might not be there. It's not there yet. Then when does it? When is the fire being here? How can it be? How can it follow when it's not there now?
있어요 없어요? 불씨가 있어요 있어요?
Okay, when there's energy, does it come?
그게 원인이야?
Okay, when the condition befits, then is there a cause or not? Is there a fire? Is there a cause? Please do not murmur, but tell me precisely.
네? 그게 지금 있냐고 없냐고 그게 불씨가 있으면 왜 그게 안
Is there a light, the seed for the flame?
있다고 해놔놓고 있으면 왜 불이 안 보이냐고 그게 잠재가 있다고 상쾌한
Open your eyes. So, is there a condition here? If there is a condition, if there is a seed for the light, then why is a flame not coming up?
사승제가
So, is there a flame or not? You should know this precisely. If you don't have a proper understanding, then this will bring Buddhism, whether you talk about the Four Noble Paths or others.
불은 없죠 만약에 없다라고 얘기하면
There is no fire here at this moment.
없단 말이 틀렸어요 안 틀렸어요?
But when we say it is not there, then this should not arise. So it's wrong to say we do.
이렇게 내가 했잖아. 그럼 여기에 불이 있죠? 불 켜 보니까 있죠? 또 대답 잘해.
When you have lighted it, you know that there is light. You need to answer carefully.
근데 이 안에 불이 있으면 지질로 불이 나와야 될 거 아니에요, 그죠?
But if there is a fire inside, then the fire should come out automatically on its own. But if we say it is not there, then no matter how much you try, it should not come out.
나와야 되는데 불이 붙어 있어야 된다고.
If you say the fire was there inherently, then it should always be lit.
그래서 표현할 때 뭐라 그러냐면 불교에서 이거
That's why
크게 얘기를 해.
when we express, we say in Buddhism we say precisely, it's the fire is not there
일어날 수 있는 조건이
since the beginning.
그러니까 불은
But because the condition for it to become a fire is there, the fire comes. So it's wrong to say the fire is there, and it is also wrong to say that the fire is not there.
그걸 비유로 다른 말로 하면 공성이라고 해.
In other words, we can say the voidness.
그러니까 여기에 불이 있는 것으로 착각을 한단 말이에요. 그러니까
We say there is a characteristics of fire, so people misunderstand that there is fire here. So they assume that if they find the seed for the fire, then they tend to get enlightenment. But if we say there was the seed of fire inside in it, then that becomes wrong. But it means if you provide the conditions to become Buddha, you can become Buddha. The first condition is to have the sense of bodhisattva. Without the sense of bodhisattva, if you just practice with the teachings of Hinayana, without having the sense of bodhisattva, there is no way that you can become a Buddha.
저거들도 나는 이번에 스리랑카 가서 확인하니까
You can become Arahant, but Arahant is not Buddha.
아니다라고 얘기해.
So because they have also gone through this, they say precisely that Arahant is not Buddha.
정경각 그렇게 아라한 얘기를 하죠. 부처님은 아라한가를 넘어섰기 때문에 아라한도 되지만은 아라한은 부처는 아니다.
Buddha is Arahant because Buddha has surpassed the sense of Arahant, but Arahant is not Buddha.
그렇기 때문에 보리심을 바라지 않고서는
You need to listen carefully. Because of that, without the sense of bodhisattva, there is no way that you can become a Buddha.
수학을 하려면 서숙을 심지 않고서는 수학할 방법이 없죠, 그죠? 밭에 콩을 심지 않고서는 콩을
If you want to harvest from the farm, then without planting it, there is no way that you can harvest. Without planting the seeds, there is no way that you can harvest them. If you do not plant the rice, then you cannot harvest the rice.
지가 가서 나서로 배만 오면
Despite all of that,
왜 돌아 그 말이야? 쌍키 아빠라고 하나? 도라만의 쌍키 아빠라고.
despite all of that, if you say the rice is always there, so you just have to go and harvest them, then that is also the misunderstanding.
불성이 본래부터 있었다 그러면 이건 여러분 생각해.
So if you say the sense of Buddhism has always been inside of you, then think about it. Even if I have the sense of theft, then I don't become a thief because I have the sense of Buddhism, Buddha inside of me. But if you have the sense of thief in your heart, then you become a thief.
그러니까 우리가 이 보리심을 바라지 않고 보리심이 뭐냐? 일체 중생을 위하는데 일체 중생을 위하지 않고 어떻게 성불이 가능하냐?
So the sense of bodhisattva is for everyone, but if without having the sense of bodhisattva, how can you gain enlightenment? It is not possible.
그 부처 싹이야. 씨앗이고 싹이야. 싹이라고 그러는데
That is the sprout of Buddha. There is a seed and there is also the sprout. It's a comparison, so you can also say it's a seed and it's also a sprout.
노랗다 그러면 그게 무슨 얘기야? 안 된다는
The
얘기야.
same as if you plant the beans, then you will have the sprout of beans.
밭이 났다 그러면 이 싹수가
If the seat is wrong, then we also say the seat is wrong. The seat is not proper.
간절하게 자꾸 마음을 끼워서 일체 중생을 위하는 생각이 안 나오면
So wholeheartedly, if you have the sense of all sentient beings, without that kind of feeling, there's no other method. So that's why we ask you to keep practicing it, because it does not happen so often. But on the other hand, if you just say so, you are only close to those who are close to you. For your child, you can buy them tens and twenties of clothes, and only if you have money. Then you can also buy them $10,000 or $10,000 worth of clothes. For your child, you don't have any sense of parsimony. For others, you feel bad even buying even a single cloth for others.
내가 그 속을 알아서 내가 그 대답을 안 하지.
You just say,
그럼 말아버리지. 왜?
I don't answer when you come and tell me that you bought some clothes for other children. You're trying to be praised. I know how you feel about it. That's why I refuse to answer, because I know the contents.
내가 좀 어떤 때는 좀 너무했나 지독하나 그런 좀 있을 때가 있어요.
At times I doubt if I was too harsh,
모종했을 때 옆에서 밑에서 올라오는 거 있죠, 그죠?
because
그것도 모르나 또.
it seemed like when you plant the chili, I don't know if you know, if you plant chili, there is something that comes from this part. Do you have to remove it or do you have to keep it? If you don't take it out, then there will be no chili from the top. So the sooner you take them off, it's better. You can take it off and you can make new dish with that. So it's better if you take it off. So if you donate a liter and when the liter hurt has arisen, it doesn't help you. So you should take it out as soon as possible. The sooner you take this sense out of you, it's better.
여러분은 이용해 먹으려 그러면 참 이용해 먹을 수 있어. 그런 걸 하나 뭐 아이고 대보살이 됐네.
If a teacher tries to use you, then he can use you. He can use you in this way. He will say, "Oh, you're a great student, or you're the great sattva." If the teacher say that, then you will do very well. Before Seokju, Venerable Seokju used to do that. When the sattvas, when the ladies would come and say, "It's good here and it's good there," he would say, "Go. Be quiet, go." He will not even say greetings and send them off because they come and say you are great, and I was touched when they say so. He just says, "Be quiet, do not say useless things, and go." I saw it once myself. One nun came and she wiped his shoes and wiped the floor, and we went to say hello, and the monk, he said, "Go away, why are you wiping the floor?" And the nun felt ashamed, embarrassed, and so she went off. But when we asked, "Oh, it's difficult for you to clean your shoes, so why don't you let her be?" And he said, "No, she's doing it with other purpose. She wants the kindergarten, that's why she's doing it." For her, it is the kindergarten shoes. Because he knows about it, he knows about it. He will not give her the kindergarten. But if it was the wrong teacher, then he would have given the kindergarten to her, because he would think that she is trying her best. Because the older you get, you like those people who flatters you. If they praise like you are great and you are such a big person, and if they wipe your shoes, they like it. But instead he said, "Do not even enter my room," and he cut her off. if it's fine if they do the practice on their own, then it's good enough if they practice there and if they do their job properly.
보리심은 몇 달 만에 기를 수 있는 것이 아니야. 그러니까
The sense of bodhicitta is not something that you can grow in few months.
백분자 되는데
And also those people who are in haste, they might also ask, so when are we going to gain enlightenment? And I have to gain enlightenment soon. And at each moment like this, I tell them this. He's a very devoted person to his parents, but he's very short-tempered. So, and he planted the beans, and he felt bad when his mother went out to do the farm. And one day he came back and said, "Mom, you don't have to work so hard." And when she asked why, he said because the mother feels so difficult doing all the things, so he plucked the beans up to this much so that they would grow sooner. But it's actually the ruining the agriculture. I think it was Dongguk University, Mr. Lee, Professor Lee. He spoke in a very good way, and he's a very versatile talker. Even if you listen talking to him for 1 hour, he speaks in a very tasty manner that is better than Tulsan's cut kimchi, and he's also very intelligent. So when he was in middle school 2nd grade or 3rd grade, he advanced, and even the high school he went for only 1 year, and then he went to college. So when he was very young, he went to university. So when he was trying to write the thesis for the master's, it was most of the things that he had to study in middle school and high school. Because he passed all the tests, and because he didn't study in detail, there were things that he didn't know. So while he was doing the master's and doctor degree, he started his middle school and high school program again. That's almost like same as plucking out the beans. So even when you study, you should know. Even when you come here, from the stairs down, try stepping just one stairs and try to step up all the way here without stepping other stairs. Even the practice, it is not something that will be done in that manner. Even to quit smoking, which you have been smoking for 20 to 30 years, even that practice, the phenomenon of smoking, you survive for that momentarily, but then there is also other consequences following. When I was talking about alcohol on Buddhist television, there was the president from the Association of quit drinking, but even he smoked for about 15 years. But even now when he sees the letter 보해, the saliva start filling up his mouth. He wants to drink it again. He drank for about 20 years and he stopped. And even after 17 years, it didn't still like leave him. So it is not yet complete. For me, I have achieved 100% because no matter how much days of alcohol, I don't feel like drinking it. No matter what difficult condition I am, I don't have the sense of wanting to drink it, because about 30 years back, I went trekking and I drank about half a glass of beer because I was so thirsty, and I felt bad drinking about it. Because it didn't give me the sense of comfort, and so I didn't give anyone else, because thinking that this will also give them the feeling of dissatisfaction. So I spilled it, and the person who was sitting next to me, he was like, "Why are you spilling it?" And I told him that I feel bad drinking it, and so I thought you would feel bad. So next time if I'm drinking poison, should I drink it with you too? So when you try to stop a habit and when you try to remove it from your consciousness, even the quitting smoking, it does not happen properly or it does not happen in a perfect way in one life. So even you applying the lipstick in a very thick manner, I don't think that's going to end in one life.
물론 언제나 그렇다는 것은 아닙니다. 보리심을 개발하기 위한 수행을 계속하면 어느 순간
Of course, it's not something that it will be so all the time. In order to develop the sense of bodhicitta, and if you keep practicing it, then the time will come when you will be able to taste it. In the beginning stage, you will not even understand what the word does bodhicitta mean. When you say bodhicitta, the first one that arises in your heart, then I'm sure you will think of the Pali, because in Korean we use the same word.
스님이 자꾸 보리심 얘기해서 나가면서
Because I keep talking about the sense of bodhicitta, while going away, you talk about, let's go to eat the Bali food in Choge Monastery. In some of you, the sense of bodhicitta becomes the table of Bali, because you don't know how to arise that kind of senses. So for you, you take it as the sense of bodhicitta is something that you have to have in your heart and try to develop it. But when you try to develop the heart in your heart, when you treat everyone as your mother. Then when your mother feels difficulty and when your mother is suffering, you try to help them so that they don't suffer. You will develop that kind of feeling. Before, when I met Dalai Lama for the first time, and we studied the book, the Way to Bodhisattva, and Dalai Lama said, I'm about to have this much of bodhicitta. And about 2-3 years back, he said, nowadays I have like certain amount. He's not talking about anything else, but I think he's talking about it after looking at us. So in the beginning for him, it was also difficult. Maybe it was a bodhicitta that was there from his previous life, but through the repeated practice, if you get used to it, then you can go closer to the heart, and the characteristics of an object changes due to the conditions and also cause. So if you should remember the beneficial facts about the bodhicitta, and in order to achieve that, you have to have a strong mindset and you have to pray hard. For this, you need to repent, and you need to repent the kind of selfish life that you lived. And so if those 10 things that you live in a selfish way, you need to repent that. And while you offer your teachers, and if that's your prayer to have to live a life for others, the most essential thing is to have the kind of sense that you're trying to provide all sentient beings a proper life without suffering, and you try to cut down their agony, and you will try to study the prayers. Why are you learning them? Without learning the techniques of the methods, and no matter how much we try to explain to you in detail, you will have no power to control them or process them. And that's why the avatar of Buddhism, no matter how high it is, I will try to achieve it. That is the prayer. There is a prayer for the 10 prayers for the Shakyamuni, and also when Amita Buddha became a Buddha, he achieved all all the prayers that he prayed so far, and those are the things that we need to achieve.
따라서 보리심에 대한 이익을 기하고 그것을 성취하기 위해서 강한 결심은 열심히 기도해야 합니다. 기도는 그걸 얘기하는 거예요.
So you need to remember the beneficial parts about the Bodhisattva, and in order to achieve that, you need to have the strong sense of mindset, and you need to pray. Here, pray does not mean anything else, but it's repentance, having the feeling, and also praying, and also trying to set your heart once again. So throughout your different prayers, or throughout your repeated practice of prayer, you try to have the mind once again.
봐, 쥐네가 왜 쫓겨나느냐면 독 때문에 쫓겨나는 거죠.
Look, even the centipede. Why is the centipede being kicked out? It's been kicked out because of the poison. Without the poison, we are not kicked out. Even people, if you are poisonous, then you'll be kicked out.
앉아 있으라고 하지만도 지가 법을 딱
If a very poisonous person is sitting down, then while we are meeting those Buddhist laws, there are times when you feel bad about things, wrong things that you have done, and you know those kind of things. You are not able to sit here and bear it because the things that you have done wrong will hit you. No matter whether you are sleeping or sitting or walking, you also have to think about it. So all the time, the person who was my mother is going through so much suffering. How can I help? You should think of them all the time, and you should also know how weak you are. So no matter how much you try to help them, by the time that you have this kind of thoughts, you're already old. And since your body is also weak, you are not able to help. What kind of selfish life have you been living so far for your family and for your child? And your heart has become so shallow that now you're trying to help others, and you're out of money, and your physical ability is also low, and your thoughts are also low. Everything is falling apart, and this kind of thought will strike you. And I think a lot of people, most of people, except this young lady sitting here, would have the same thoughts. So even from now, if you have the sense of Bodhisattva, and if you try to help others, and if you just keep practicing, and by the time you're about 80 or 90 or 100 years, you'll become like Buddha. If you know about Buddhism since at this age, since the young age, then by the time you will be able to achieve it. So even all of you, after getting married, having children, you were so busy looking after them, and after that, when they grew, you were so busy looking after your husband, and after that, it is the household matters, and by the time you want to do it, it's your backaches, your body, your blood pressure, your diabetes, everything strikes you. It's quite weird. When you think of selfish things, then your blood pressure rises and you get a headache. But if you have the kind of thought that it is for all other sentient beings, then you wake up in the morning, but you feel very clear at mind. That's very strange. So the feeling for other sentient beings, if you have this thought, then even if you don't sleep in the night, then there is not much problem. How great will it be if I have this kind of thoughts? Try to develop the heart try to develop the sense of Bodhisattva from inside your heart. And if you continue practicing this every day, then you will certainly develop. You should read everything, you should read all the prayers, thinking about them. Make excuses. even on the birthday of your children, you read the sutras once. It is not
많은 생을 보내야 하더라도
the thousand eyes and hand sutra is not something that is only good on your birthdays, but it's good every day. So even if you have to spend so many lives, you need to set a certain or better strict idea about your prayer or your heart. So don't just think that it is something that you want to have it in your next life. If you think about it, it is not something that goes with the flow until next life.
사실은 다음 생으로 연결돼서
If you think about it in the way that this will be passed to in your body through next consciousness of your life, next life you're reborn as a baby and you will grow again. It's not something that you are old now, but the beginning itself is still young.
다음 생으로 연결되는 것이기 때문에 지금 우리는
Maybe it is something. Maybe if you say it is something that's late in this life, but you know that it's going to continue in your next life. That's why you have to begin now.
왔더니 아이고 이제 다음 생에 오십시오. 그래서 내가 그래도
Once someone came to become a monk when he was 70 or 80,
집안에서
he went back
상당히 깊이
because they said, come back next life. But in his common life, he studied a lot and he wanted to become a monk when he was about 80. And when he was asked to come next life, he died and he came back next life at age of 7. And the monk said, "You're too young." And then he said, "Sometimes you say I'm too old, and now you're saying I'm too young." And he was like, "When did you come?" And he's like, "Didn't I come previous life at age of 80?" And he could remember, and he did so many mischievous things when he was young. And in front of this monastery, like when he wants to pee, he would just pee here. And so the head monk would say, "Why are you peeing there?" And the monk was like, "Tell me, is there any place where there is no Buddha? Then I can pee there. Because we have Buddha here, we think that Buddha is here. So we only pray in front of him, and then when he's not sitting in front of us, we do many different things. But for him, he knew that Buddha was everywhere. But that doesn't mean I'm asking you to go pee anywhere you would like." Shantideva prayed so in the way to Bodhisattva, in the until the empty space and until the world of mankind or sentient being is done. In order to remove the suffering of all sentient beings, let me stay here. With this prayer, it sums up. It is epitome of everything. Will there be a time when the empty space comes to an end, or the realm of boundless comes to an end? Even the world of mankind or sentient beings, until there is life, until the condition that there is a practice going on, being practiced, this will not disappear. And because it doesn't disappear, there will be practice. So until all sentient beings comes to an end, it is not something that I practice for next 3,000 years, but until everything comes to an end, I will practice. My life itself for the happiness of all sentient beings, in order to save them from their suffering. All the time, I will try to put them here. It should be done so. You don't have to think about time or the plan in matters regarding helping other sentient beings. You have to do until the end. So it's not something like you think that until age of 60 or 70 I will work for other sentient beings and after that I will try to help only myself. That saying is wrong. Because I have become weak, I'm about to die, and I'm going to quit helping others, and I'm only going to live for myself. You go around trying to become healthy. Do not do that when you are dying. I was born, and throughout this life, I'll be reborn in next life and I'll again try to help other sentient beings. Even at the time of death, you should think of that. When I'm about to die, I understand that there are so many difficult things, and I hope to help all sentient beings until they save themselves from until the moment of death of this suffering. You can help other beings even at the time of your death. It's possible even at the moment of your death. Only one person answered. If you do that, then it's possible until the moment of your death. If you observe this way, and whether you treat any animal or any other person, or even this thing called cause and effect, which is not seen our eyes, or even the things we think about those beings in celestial world or even in hell, you need to think of them as someone that you need to save. They were once your mother in your previous life, and you'd like to help them to save your suffering. Your mother, because you have been blessed for so many times, and because of that, you're not trying to do expecting something in return. That is the sense, or that is the sentiment of a sattva. You should know how lucky we are that we are able to meet this kind of teaching. It's something really great, and it's something very lucky. This is the way, this is the method to practice your heart. It's not something that you sit with your crossed legs. Only if this heart arises, the next path is possible. I hope only even those who are looking at my teaching, I hope they have the sense of Mahayana. If they have the sense of Mahayana, then I think Yosu will change in 10 to 15 years. This will change in a great manner. Although you feel that the strength is mild, if you will have the heart, that you will try to help other sentient beings, and if you think that you expect no reward, but you will try your best, your sacrifice, I think it's also there in Bible. In the beginning, it's small, but it will be magnificent in the end. So when you start in the beginning, it's just a small flow, but as it progresses, it becomes a great or bigger gem. But when people look at it, they don't look at it the procedure that they look, but they only look at the consequence, and they look at it in a mysterious way. But there's nothing mysterious about it. Everything is bound to happen. If you try to achieve the sense of bodhisattva in few days or few months, or if you try to achieve enlightenment at once, and so if you try to go into meditation or practice for 3 years and 3 months, there's a wrong thing. I heard that Ngao Kicho tried that. You know, the person who came here and sang last time, the artist.
깨슈야. 그 교학 공부를 끝내고 내가 이 생에 끝내리라 하고
He's also a Geshe. He studied Buddhism, and the more he studied, he was losing strength, and
확 빠져버렸대. 한 1년 됐네.
and one day he just vomited blood, and he felt unconscious, and the friend who was next to him, he came to know, and so they brought him down to hospital, and they came to know that he had tuberculosis.
금방 아까
It's because they didn't have proper thing to eat in the cave,
푹 앞으로 꺼버려졌어. 이제 그게 이제 폐결핵 약을 먹으면서 치료를 갖다 이제 했어.
and while he was eating the medicine for tuberculosis, he was also being treated. When he thought about it,
자량공덕.
and he thought he understood that he was doing an act of craziness,
이 공덕에서
something that acts as the basis,
동안 갖다가
like Buddha, for 6 years.
계셔도 안 죽었단 말이야.
He didn't die even if he didn't eat for 6 years. If we try to do that, then we will die.
안다는 게 타고난 몸이
We have a different body.
다 달라요.
We all have different body.
다 전생에 지은 것이 다르기 때문에 다르단 말이야.
It's because what we have done in our previous life is all different. So he said, Ngao Kicho said,
자량공덕으로서는 한 생에 되지 않는
with my virtue, I don't think I understood. I came into realization that it is not possible with my body in one life because of my virtues.
수 있는 일이 뭘까 하고 생각해 보니까
And so I thought about what is the thing that I can offer other people. I don't have money, I don't have anything else. So maybe I could practice some music that could bring peace of heart to many different people, and I'll go around the world and I'll try to volunteer this.
되겠다라는 생각을
And while making them listen to the music, maybe I'll try to lead the path to a small prayer. And while listening to music, it brings your heart to peace.
애를 쓰고 들어가서 뭐 어쩌고 저쩌고 하는 것도 그렇게 되는 것이
And so, even if you try for 3 years and 3 months, it's not something that will happen.
들어가서 한 3개월 이렇게 있어 보면
So even when I tried to practice myself for 3 months, the older you get, I understood that it is more difficult. Because first, if I don't walk and if I just stay 2 to 3 months in a small room, then the muscles, you start losing the muscles. And so it is easy for you to sit.
했는데도 근육이
So inside, I prostrated in the morning and in the evening. But since it is different muscle to walk, so all the muscles to walk they lose. And in the cave,
3, 40분밖에 안 걸리거든. 한 40분
it's only 30 to 40 minutes to come down from the cave to the Meklot Ganj. And when I walked down 40 minutes, I could not go down, or I could not even climb up. So the next morning, even if I tried to take a step, I felt horrible about it. I could not take any more. I could not walk. So the older you get, it gets more difficult.
몸이 약한 부분
And also,
약했던
there is also some part of my body that I am weak, and those weak parts. When I try to practice Samantha, the deeper I go, if this part does not get substituted, or if it does not get back up,
집어넣을 압력을 계속 개하면 호수가
it gets worse. So it's just like when you try to put more pressure to the water pipe, then where it's weak, it bursts. It becomes like that.
계속 해와서
So without a prior practice,
져서 그게 완벽하게 이루어지는
and if you have only done prior practice, then only it's possible. Without that, it does not happen at once.
아니고 만약에
It's not only so, but
상태에서 사마타 수행만 계속 해버리면 정신 이상이
if you only do Samantha practice without the prior preparation, then you could also have problem with your mind. You could even lose your consciousness. In order not to lose them, you have to continue your practice, and you need to have a proper perception, and under the direction of your teacher, you have to practice Samantha. And in the personal position, you have to keep try. You should always try to walk forward. You understood? You should not try to lose that. Of course, the tradition for 3 years and 3 months is our very own traditional custom. But through this, and a lot of practitioners have achieved the profit of study. But if you achieve 3 years and 3 months, when I listen to this suggestion that it is possible to attain enlightenment, sometimes I think this is just like the ideology of their socialist countries, and I joke about it in this way. It's like utopia, but it is not something that is possible. Dalai Lama spoke with Mao Zedong for many times, so when he listens to Mao Zedong speaking, then for him it's almost as if like the heaven will come soon. It's almost like what Yu Byung-won has spoken nowadays. And when the incident about Mao Zedong came, then it was just like chicks being hidden in the bamboo cage. You don't know how many of those soldiers died. Everything was hidden from the world. You feel like this will come to you soon when you do, but even at the time of election, when you have the propaganda, you think this will work out. But after they get elected, you know that they are all the way same, and a lot of times you comment that they are worse than the before. So I've said before, I am better because I am more comfortable. So having no worries is the best. So you need to be envious of me. Maybe you don't have to have children, or if you want to have children, then you need to train them properly. Even Jung Mong-jun, he has problems because of his child. Although you bring up kids in a very free way, even last time when you had this accident in the military, there's a part where you bring up all the rich kids with power. There are so many people from these rich areas and also high social status. That place also should be broken down. When it Prince William, for example, from UK, when there's war, he went inside to the middle of the war himself. Because he's a prince, maybe for our expectation, we would have taken him off the war. But in the tradition of the royal family, it's not like he will be saved, but he has to go to the war and he has to come back on his own alive. Then only he can proudly say that he survived. Isn't that noblesse oblige of those people with authority or power? You try your best not to send your children to military, and since we also comment a lot about it, you try to send your kids to easiest position in the military, and in there we had this accident. You need to use your power wisely. You should not use your power in those manners. And also, when my Western friends ask me, can we practice in a way that's the passion also fastest? Then I tell him not to. I advise them not to expect this kind of easy consequences. I think Dalai Lama is a very wise and great friend and teacher. When Western friends come and say, I have about 5 minutes that I can spend and stay here, so let me achieve in 5 years. That is not something that is possible. And even the Korean monk once, he's someone who only meditated in Korea, and he went there and in front of those great monks, he asked for the method that can lead to instant enlightenment, and everyone said no, I don't know. So he spent about 3 years alone in the cave, and it was not possible. So he went around meetings for so many different monks, and to one of the old monks, he asked for the way to study, and the monk, that's because he came to realization that it is not possible with that kind of practice. And the other monk advised you need to do it from the basic. What do you have to do from the basic? But he had expectations, so he had expectations to be taught the method to practice, but he said you need to study the sutras first. So he went and he studied the sutras from the beginning. Because he doesn't have the perceptions, the more he studies, then they know there is a deviation. So even the Westerners, they come and ask for instant enlightenment and also instant understanding, but it's also same in Seokjeon Monastery. A lot of people came and said, teach me the method to meditate. Why are you teaching me those sutras? There were a few people who came and commented that. And also some people came and blamed me. When I listened to this great monk, he only said, nothing is needed, but you only have to meditate. But why are you asking me to do these kind of things? There were also people like that. But if you do that, and if you ask if that's working out, that's not going to work out. How can there be a swift and easy way to achieve something that is very depth and also something that is very wide? Even the farmer, when they want to harvest the rice, they have to wait for months. Even if we plant the radish, which grows the soonest, so when Zui tried to feed everyone, when he moved himself from the chalk, he planted radish, because radish grows very soon. You can eat the sprout of the radish too. And also radish grows very soon if you just water them abundantly. So even the radish, that grows soon. It's about time that we plant radish now in Korea. After rain, if you take care of the farm and if you plant the radish, it's easy. Even when you plant them, please do not use pesticide or insecticide, but just last time on TV I saw in G Mountain, they say she lives a very natural life in a very clear air, but she was actually spreading the DDT powder. That's the worst insecticide ever.
장사하는 사람은
So even things like
하는
radish,
사람은
those people who does business,
포기 그따 그 조그마한 비닐 화분에다 심어가 종자를 우물 튀어가지고 하잖아요. 그렇게 하지만 씨를 좀 많이 사가 쭉쭉 뿌려가 솎아서 계속 나물 해 먹어. 엄청 좋은 거야.
those people who try to business, they plant the sprouts. But for you, you just buy some abundant seeds and try to have the sprouts. It's good.
이기 때문에 상관없어. 그건 태양력으로 돌아가기 때문에 상관없어. 예? 예?
Even if we have
이렇게 뿌릴 게 없어. 이렇게 뿌리시오. 물은 좀 더 커도 괜찮고 배추도 더 커도 괜찮아.
the ligman, it's fine because it goes with the solar energy.
그 걔들도 지금 뭐 밥이 한 마리도 잘 안 보이잖아. 못 써.
You can also feed some insects if it's not working out. Nowadays, you hardly see even butterflies, so it's fine. So even when we plant the radish,
11월, 12월
uh,
물을 뽑아야 되거든.
September, October, November, in December, you can also get them. So even if it's radish, you need to wait for 2 months, and in order to become Buddha, you need to wait longer, of course.
가장 위대한 존재가 되는 작업을 하면서 몇 개월 만에 몇 년
You are trying to become the greatest person amongst the humankind, and you're just trying to do it few months, and you should also think about how you are born in this life. I also thought about the face. If I become Buddha in this life with this face, would people try to look up to me? I don't think so because I am not handsome. So maybe in next life I will try to have a more handsome face, and also the appearance, that whether it's you or me, if you do not wear some makeup, then it is not something that is pleasant to look at. You guys are not agreeing to what I said. Look at Buddha's life. Buddha
사마성직업을 보낸 다음에야 부처를 이루었습니다. 따라서 3년 3개월 같은 짧은 시간 안에 부처를 이루려고 하는 것은 실제 모든 과정을 다 거친 것이 아니라.
So Buddha has achieved the Buddhahood after so much difficulties, and so it is difficult, and it is impossible to achieve Buddhahood in 3 years and 3 months. You have to think in a realistic way, and so please do not be distracted by incomplete knowledge. It takes about 21 years to graduate college, but if you do it in 3 years, then that means you have not completed the whole procedure. We can only say you have missed out a lot of it. You need to think in a realistic way. Do not be fooled by foolish people's incomplete knowledge. Next class we'll do continuously.